How Pablo Escobar built a billion-dollar empire. Imagine building a business so profitable that it generated more money in a single week than some of America's largest companies made in months. Imagine controlling such a massive share of a global market that governments, intelligence agencies, and law enforcement organizations across multiple countries dedicated years of their existence to bringing you down. Now imagine that despite being one of the most wanted criminals on Earth, your wealth became so enormous that Forbes magazine listed you among the world's billionaires for 7 consecutive years. This wasn't a movie. This wasn't fiction. This was Pablo Escobar. At the peak of his power, his organization was reportedly generating hundreds of millions of dollars every week, controlling a significant portion of the world's cocaine trade and accumulating wealth at a pace so extraordinary that one of his greatest challenges wasn't making money. It was finding places to hide it. But how did a poor kid from Medellin become the most powerful drug trafficker in modern history? And what kind of mind does it take to build an empire worth billions while the entire world is trying to stop you? Long before his name became synonymous with wealth, violence, and power, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria was just another boy growing up in Medellín, Colombia. Born into a modest family, Escobar witnessed firsthand the realities of poverty and limited opportunity. Yet even as a young man, he possessed an ambition that far exceeded his circumstances. While most people around him dreamed of stable jobs and comfortable lives, Escobar dreamed of becoming extraordinarily rich. He didn't just want success, he wanted power. And from an early age, he understood a truth that would shape the rest of his life. The biggest rewards often existed where the greatest risks were found. During his teenage years and early adulthood, Escobar became involved in smuggling, contraband operations, and various criminal enterprises. Unlike many street-level criminals, however, Escobar approached illegal activity with a business mindset. He studied markets. He analyzed opportunities. He looked for inefficiencies. Most importantly, he learned that controlling distribution was often more profitable than simply controlling products. This lesson would later become the foundation of an empire that stretched across continents. In the 1970s, a perfect storm was developing. Cocaine consumption in the United States was growing rapidly. Demand was exploding in cities like Miami, Los Angeles, and New York. Wealthy professionals, celebrities, and nightlife circles increasingly viewed cocaine as a luxury product. While governments were slow to recognize the scale of this emerging market, Escobar immediately saw its potential. To him, cocaine wasn't simply a drug, it was one of the most profitable business opportunities in modern history. And unlike legitimate industries, there were few established competitors with the infrastructure to dominate the market. Escobar moved quickly. He began investing in production facilities hidden deep within remote areas of Colombia. He recruited trusted associates. He established transportation networks capable of moving enormous quantities of cocaine across international borders. Small aircraft became one of the key tools of his operation, flying shipments worth millions of dollars at a time. But what truly separated Escobar from other traffickers was that he didn't want to participate in the business. He wanted to control the entire business. Production, transportation, distribution, security, financing, and logistics all gradually came under his influence. He wasn't building a gang. He was building a multinational enterprise. As profits exploded, Escobar helped create what became known as the Medellin cartel. Together with key partners, he transformed a fragmented criminal landscape into a highly organized network capable of operating on an unprecedented scale. At its peak, the cartel was reportedly responsible for a massive percentage of the cocaine entering the United States, and was generating staggering amounts of revenue. Some estimates suggested earnings of approximately $420 million per week. To put that into perspective, Escobar's operation was producing more cash than many Fortune 500 companies, all while functioning entirely outside the law. The success of the cartel created a problem that sounds almost unbelievable. There was simply too much money. Escobar's organization was accumulating cash faster than it could spend, invest, or move it. Mountains of banknotes were stored inside warehouses, hidden in rural properties, buried underground, and concealed in secret locations throughout Colombia. According to stories from former associates, millions of dollars were lost every year because of moisture, mold, and rats. The cartel reportedly spent thousands of dollars each month on rubber bands just to keep stacks of cash organized. Most people spend their lives worrying about how to make money. Escobar had become one of the few people in history who had to worry about how to physically store it. Yet money alone wasn't enough. Escobar understood that wealth without influence was vulnerable. So he began investing heavily in public perception. In some of Colombia's poorest neighborhoods, he funded housing projects, sports facilities, and community initiatives. Families who had been ignored for generations suddenly found themselves receiving assistance from a man who seemed willing to spend money where the government would not. To many residents of Medellin, Escobar wasn't viewed as a criminal mastermind. He was viewed as a benefactor, a protector, a local hero. This support created a powerful shield around him, making it far more difficult for authorities to isolate him from the communities that admired him. At the same time, Escobar was constructing an incredibly sophisticated financial machine. The enormous flow of cash generated by the cartel required methods to conceal and move money across different sectors of the economy. Through various assets, investments, properties, and business structures, vast amounts of wealth were integrated into broader financial systems. Escobar wasn't simply generating money. He was building a system capable of transforming illegal profits into lasting power. Every mansion, every ranch, every investment increased both his influence and his ability to survive. By the mid-1980s, Escobar had become more than a criminal. He had become a symbol. His wealth was legendary. His influence was expanding. His name was recognized across the world. Forbes included him among the world's billionaires, placing him alongside some of the most successful entrepreneurs and business leaders on the planet. Yet unlike those businessmen, Escobar's empire was built on a foundation that attracted constant pressure from governments, rival organizations, and international law enforcement agencies. The larger his empire became, the more attention it attracted. Eventually, the same factors that fueled Escobar's rise began to contribute to his downfall. Rival groups emerged. Governments increased cooperation. Intelligence networks expanded. Resources dedicated to capturing him grew larger every year. The empire that once seemed unstoppable began facing threats from every direction. But even as pressure mounted, the scale of what Escobar had built remained astonishing. A poor boy from Medellin had transformed himself into one of the richest and most powerful criminals in history, creating an organization that generated billions of dollars and reshaped the global drug trade forever. What makes Pablo Escobar's story so fascinating isn't simply the money, the violence, or the power. It's the fact that he understood business, logistics, branding, influence, and human psychology at a level few people ever achieve. He built an empire by recognizing opportunities others failed to see and scaling them beyond anyone's imagination. For a brief moment in history, he wasn't just running a criminal organization. He was operating one of the most profitable enterprises the world had ever seen. And as incredible as his rise was, the story of how he tried to stay on top would become even more unbelievable than the empire itself.